All right, so on equivalent ratios, if you were sent this assignment back, it's because you are missing out on some points. So double check your work and make sure that you answered the question completely. Because on questions 1, 2, and 3, you'll notice that the answer selection is not a round circle like it normally is, it's a square, okay? And it also says in the questions, choose all that apply. Now, we're not trying to trick you. There is more than one correct answer. And I've noticed that on our standardized test as well. If there is a box on there from doing the practice tests, if there is a box on there, there is more than one correct answer. So let's look at question number 1 for equivalent ratios. At the zoo, there are 5 cheetahs for every 7 tigers. So I'm going to write this ratio as a fraction. 5 cheetahs for every 7 tigers. Okay, so I will tell you that on number 1, there are 3 correct answers, and I'll show you how to find one of them, and you're going to use the same strategy to find the other 2. Okay, so A says 10 to 14. Okay, so you're going to take that 10 and 14 and you're going to ask yourself, can I multiply 5 times something to get 10? And you should say yes, you can multiply 5 times 2 to get 10. So if I do 7 times 2, do I get 14? Yes, you do. So A is one of the correct answers. There are 2 other ones. Set up your ratio and your answer and ask yourself, can I multiply the top and bottom by the same factor and get this one that they're giving me in the answer? If you can, then it's equivalent. If you can't, then it's not. Number 2 also has 3 correct answers. And it says you are making slime. The ratio of glue to liquid starch is 3 to 1. So again, I'm going to write that as a fraction. And that's glue to liquid starch. What ratios are equivalent to the ratio of glue to liquid starch? Choose all that apply. Okay, so this time we're going to look at D. Okay, again, there's 3 correct answers here, so you're going to have to check all of them to see what the other 2 are, but we're going to see if D is one of them. Okay, 12 to 4. Can I multiply 3 times? Actually, no, let's look at the bottom number because we can do ones really easily. What can I multiply 1 by to get 4? 4, obviously, easy. So if I'm multiplying the bottom number by 4, I need to try what 3 times 4 is now. Is 3 times 4 12? It is. So D is one of my equivalent fractions or equivalent ratios. You're going to need to check the other ones to see what the other 2 are. Okay, let's look at number 3 now. Number 3 says, choose the pairs of ratios below that represent equivalent ratios. Select all that apply. Okay. So on this one, let's just look at A. We're going to have to test all of them. There is more than one correct answer. You're going to have to find out how many correct answers there are, though. So A says 1/2 and 3/6. Some of you can tell by looking at this because you remember from when we did equivalent fractions how this works. And that was part of the reason why we went over equivalent fractions, was because you're going to use them when you're talking about ratios. You're going to use those same strategies. So, can I multiply 1 times something and get 3? I sure can. I can do 1 times 3. Is 2 times 3 6? Yes, 2 times 3 is 6. If you've got 3 2s, you can make 6. So A is one of the equivalent ratios. Okay, see if you can find another one or more. You'll have to check all of them to see which ones are equivalent and which ones are not. Okay, which value of A makes the following equation true? 3/4 equals A over 36. Okay, this is algebra. We're getting you ready for when we do our algebra unit after the winter holiday. Now, you've been doing algebra for a long time. You just didn't know it was algebra because we didn't replace numbers with letters. We said things like what, or, you know, we gave you a box and we said what number works in this box, or we put in a question mark. But those symbols or those words are doing the same thing that a variable does in an algebra problem. You have an unknown thing and you're trying to solve the problem to figure out what goes there. So anyway, in order to solve this, we need to figure out what did we multiply 4 by to get 36. Okay, so I'm going to give you a second to look at your multiplication chart if you don't know this one. Okay, you should have found it by now. 4 times 9 will give you 36. So how do we find out what A is? We have to do 3 times 9 to get A. So use your multiplication chart if you don't know what 3 times 9 is, and then select the correct answer. Number 5, which value of K makes the following equation true? 10 to 3 equals 40 to K. This one's nice. What can I multiply 10 by to get 40? You should know your tens, so we're going to do this one kind of fast. 10 times 4. Okay, so I need to find out what goes here by doing the same operation, multiplying it by the same factor. Okay, so do 3 times 4. Look at your multiplication chart if you don't know that one. I know some of us are still struggling with 3's, but we really do need to memorize this one because it comes up a lot. Okay, go ahead and select your correct answer and move on. The last problem, we have 9 to J equals 27 to 15. And a lot of students are missing this one because they're not quite paying attention to what they've done to answer the question. And so they're picking the wrong one. So I need to multiply 9 times something to get 27. Look at your multiplication chart. What can I multiply 9 by to get 27? You should have found that 9 times 3 will give you 27. So then if we try to do this, we have J times 3 equals 15. Well, what does that mean? Okay. Some of you might know this well enough that you can see this and figure out what J is. Your brain just automatically did the inverse operation, inverse being opposite. But if we're trying to go from a bigger number to a smaller number, if we're trying to do the opposite of multiplication, we're going to divide. So what is 15 divided by 3? And that will tell you what J equals.